Viewers, you're watching the explosive exclusive with me, Rahul Shivshankar. After Aryan Khan and 5 others were let off in the Cordelia drug bust case, a full-fledged war has started over this entire matter, the let-off. Under scrutiny, now the Narcotics Control Bureau is likely to act against Sameer Wankhede, who was the zonal director of the agency at the time of SRK's son's arrest. Viewers, this is a big development. The reason for the anger and outrage is that the NCP today exonerated Aryan in the Cordelia drug bust case, saying that there wasn't sufficient evidence against him to prove either possession or consumption. Now, viewers, the timeline is strange because in my hands, 3/10/2021, 3rd October 2021, is the memo of arrest. What is this memo of arrest that you can see on your screen? Tell us. It says, I, Vishwa Vijay Singh, Superintendent Narcotics Control Bureau, Mumbai Zonal Unit, duly empowered under provisions of Section 42 of the Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substance Act 1985, place you, Aryan Khan, son of Shah Rukh Khan, resident of Mannat, Bandstand, Bandra, Mumbai, under arrest today on 3rd day of October 2021 at 1400 hours for your involvement of consumption, sale and purchase of contraband, punishable under NDPS Act 1985 with other known and unknown persons for contravention of Section 8C and committing offences punishable under Section 20B, 27 read with 35 of NDPS Act 1985 in connection with the seizure, now pay attention, seizure of 13 grams of cocaine, 5 grams of MD, 21 grams of charas, 22 pills of MDMA ecstasy and 1,33,000 rupees at International Cruise Terminal, Green Gate, Mumbai on the 2nd of October. Now, viewers, this is the arrest memo. This arrest memo suggests that from the possession of Aryan Khan, all this materialized. And this was the reason why he was arrested. Aryan Khan writes, I understood grounds of my arrest and informed the same to my family members on mobile number such and such. It's been blanked out, viewers. It's on the bottom of your screens, and there is a signature also. So, viewers, there was proof, solid proof, that is a claim, and suddenly there is no evidence. How do we know this? Because the charge sheet says there is no evidence. There is no material or evidence on record to show that there was any overt action on the part of organizers of Namaskray with regard to the involvement in conspiracy for allowing premises to be used for the consumption of an offense. It also goes on to say, viewers, and this is very, very strange. It appears the IO was motivated to somehow implicate Aryan Khan in the drug case. Courts in general were very lenient with persons from whom drug is not recovered, against whom there is no cogent evidence. It may be relevant to mention here that courts sometimes cast aspersions on the motives of investigating officers if courts believe that the IO was motivated. So now we are told, viewers, that the IO was motivated. Who motivated him? We don't know. Aryan's phone was taken illegally. WhatsApp chats treated as primary proof. Integrity of extract from phone is also suspect. No drugs found in Aryan's possession. No drugs found in Aryan's possession. Then what was this memo of arrest? Was this like the deepest conspiracy to extort money from Shah Rukh Khan's son, Aryan Khan, or perhaps even Shah Rukh Khan? Or there is another wheel within wheel to this case, and I want to go straight across first to Meghna and then Priyank as well as Arunil. Meghna first. The SIT has filed a charge sheet. In this charge sheet, they've implicated the IO. But, as you said, there is a memo of arrest which details that recoveries were made from Aryan Khan. Something is not squaring up.
Absolutely. So what really changed in the last 7 months? Considering they said there was charas which was found, ecstasy pills which were found from him, and ganja as well, then what about all these so-called recoveries and solid evidence that they had, basis of which Aryan Khan was kept in lockup for 26 odd days, and now suddenly this is what the IO says, that the IO's motive itself is under cloud. Remember, even as we speak, there was an affidavit which was filed with the NCB. The vigilance team is going through, sifting through the role that Sameer Wankhede has played in all of this. This is what the SIT report says about him. It says that it appears that the IO, which is of course Sameer Wankhede, was motivated to somehow implicate Aryan Khan in the drug case. Courts in general are very lenient with persons from whom drug is not recovered and against whom there is no cogent evidence, which would have been the case of Aryan Khan. Only in the report of the IO there was drug recovered, which now the NCB has clarified there was no possession or consumption of drug which they can possibly connect with Aryan Khan. It goes on to say that it may be relevant to mention here that courts sometimes cast aspersions on the motives of the investigating officer if courts believe that the IO was motivated. So this really clarifies a lot of what may have possibly happened. That case, vigilance case against Sameer Wankhede, is still undergoing, but in the midst of it all, how did the watertight case go from being watertight and now suddenly
solid proof to no evidence? Solid proof to no evidence in a straight time of just 7 to 8 months. Arunil, what do you make of this? Solid proof to zero evidence. Was all this evidence therefore planted? Was this entire arrest order drawn up on some planted drugs? And who is the IO in this particular case? And where is the IO today?
Well, Times Now is the only channel to question Sameer Wankhede, obviously the IO in the case. Not once but twice we have questioned him. I spoke to him, Priyank Tripathi also questioned him. He had nothing to tell us. At present I am reporting from the very NCB Fort office. This was the headquarters wherein Aryan Khan and his friends were brought in. They were literally dragged inside this office by whom? NCB witnesses. Now how come witnesses have that kind of a power to drag and accuse? The witnesses, it was KP Gosavi. There are criminal complaints against him. At present, he is in Yerwada jail. He was arrested by Pune police because he was extorting money. Now, such kind of a person being made a witness by Sameer Wankhede, it really raises some serious eyebrows. Now, another question that Prabhakar Sale, another witness, he has basically said that I was only a friend of KP Gosavi. I was called over here and I was made to sign a blank paper. Later on, I got to know that I am a witness in a high-profile case. He himself accepting about it. He also saying that when we went to the Cordelia cruise, I didn't see any drugs over there. These kind of statements coming in from Prabhakar Sale, and unfortunately, Rahul, astonishingly I would say, that only few days back, few months ago, Prabhakar Sale lost his life as well. Now, this is a very mercurial case if you look at it, because there were marathon arguments that were happening in different courts, lower courts, high court, Bombay Court, everywhere. Some reputed lawyers were part of the marathon arguments, and the ASG Anil Singh, who was representing the NCB, basically was pointing towards criminal conspiracy. He was pointing towards international drug racket inside the courtroom. He also said, he also pointed towards some serious allegations against Aryan Khan also. But in the end of it, we get to know that Aryan Khan didn't have drugs with him. So who was playing all these games? And one more important incident happened that night, Rahul. When Aryan Khan was brought over here, there were many other people, many youngsters who were brought in over here. They were let off because they didn't possess any drugs. Then did Aryan Khan pay a price because he is the son of Shah Rukh Khan? That is the prime question that arises over here. There is a serious need to make changes in the NDPS Act because the lower courts don't have the power to give bail. Aryan Khan spent around 22 days in Arthur Road jail. and then the Bombay High Court could give him bail later on. We saw how some senior lawyers represented him inside the courtroom. But with respect to the charges against him, now we get to know that there was nothing found with him. There was nothing in the case. Then why was there an attempt of extortion against Aryan Khan or Shah Rukh Khan? That is the prime question that
alleged extortion. That is what is the summation of the SIT, which is very, very important, viewers. Now, try to understand what's really happening here. We spoke, Priyank Tripathi spoke exclusively to Wankhede, who was the IO, the investigating officer of this case. He was also, of course, the zonal chief of the NCB in Mumbai. Listen into this, and I'll bring in Priyank right after.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर, प्रियांक बोल रहा हूँ टाइम्स से।
कौन प्रियांक? कहाँ
सर
से?
टाइम्स ऑफ से प्रियांक।
हाँ बोलो प्रियांक।
सर दिस इज अपडेट, द एनसीबी हैज गिवन क्लीन टू आर्यन खान and you
that is between the NCB and the accused. I am no more in NCB. और काफी दिन हो गए मुझे छोड़ के NCB.
But you arrested him and the probe was initially done by you.
नहीं मैं कहाँ?
जी सर।
क्या कमेंट अभी 5 महीने के बाद तुम मुझे पूछ रहे हो यार?
5 महीने के बाद तुम मुझे पूछ रहे हो? Priyank Tripathi there with us, right there. Priyank, he seemed very irritated with you. He seemed irritated at receiving your call. He seemed irritated at the nature of your questions.
Yes, Rahul, he's a very interesting character, I would say, because over the period of last 1.5 years, what we have seen that this man who was the zonal, director of NCB has his publicity was too much, and that had certainly gone on in his head. And what our sources have been indicating that he was telling it to his colleagues that he will make something big out of the cases which were there. What we got to know, and before that, Rahul, we from Times Now has accessed the exclusive portion of the SIT finding, which was also part of this particular charge sheet, where the second page of this copy says that one of the 2 independent eyewitnesses present at the time on the search of Aryan Khan's premises and his friend Sri Prabhakar Sale, who died recently, stated in a statement on 11th of November 2021 that he was asked by Kiran Goswami, who was present at the time of search, to sign a blank paper and for the drugs recovery. So what it appears, Rahul, this is what the senior officials at the headquarters are also talking about, that Wankhede apparently planted, evidences to prove his point so that Aryan Khan could stay in custody, and that could give so much of media hype to him. So this man was working on a different tangent. We have seen that how Antilla, bomb scare case happened, where one of the Mumbai police, police inspector planted these bombs right next to Antilla just to gain publicity and to get that much of hype that he can get close to all those people who are so much of powerful. So I would say that Wankhede was also having this kind of mindset. That's why action is being taken against him.
Priyank Tripathi, was Wankhede acting alone, or was he pressured by someone else?
That is something which Mr. Wankhede can also tell it to us, Rahul, because he has not accepted any of these fault. When the SIT team was in Mumbai, they were very specifically told that the minimum sentence which you will get is suspension, and the maximum could be of arrest because of the misconduct and the wrong thing which you have done in your past few days of investigation. There was no videography which was done for this drug seizure. There was no blood test which has already been reported by our colleague Neil over the period of time, Rahul. There was nothing on record which could substantiate that there was something wrong. I would one point which I would like to submit, Rahul, that the NCB first team arrested Aryan Khan on 3 pointers. 1, evidence which could have been recovered from his possession from Aryan Khan. Second thing is circumstantial evidence, and third thing is of international conspiracy. And the charge sheet does not mention any point of evidence which they have got through over the period of last few months.
Well, this is really, really mysterious. It's also very shocking. Thanks, Priyank. And let's open this up. Asif Bhamla, Swapnil Kothari, Abha Singh, Manasvi Thapar are all here with us. I want to begin with you first. If you can hear me, Swapnil Kothari, what's happening here? What's happening? Solid proof to no evidence in about 7 months. How does this happen? Is the entire NCB brass that was active in Mumbai, in charge in Mumbai, is it today tainted, or did it just botch up, or were they under instructions to implicate Aryan? What's going on here? What do you make of it?
Rahul, I don't think that they were any under instructions to implicate Aryan Khan. There definitely seems to be a botch-up, simply because I think there seems to be some sort of an over-enthusiasm on part of Mr. Wankhede to go ahead and make the arrest. That is one way of looking at it. The other way is that he will quote an NDPS Act to me. He will say that I have reasonable suspicion. Obviously, the Cordelia drug shoes did have drugs on it, not cashew nuts and almonds. Now, who was in possession of it and who wasn't, that is for him to say, and he will have to provide that to the best of his ability. So, unfortunately, the NDPS Act and the UAP Act are such draconian legislations that they empower the investigating authorities to arrest on the basis of suspicion, or reasonable suspicion. Now, obviously, the SIT report, which was given today, seems to suggest that there was not enough evidence on the part of the NCB at that time to form that reasonable suspicion to go ahead and make the arrest. Now, obviously, that may well be the case, and in that sense, then I would not say that the arrest
enthusiasm. It wasn't in any way malfeasance. That's what you're saying. Over enthusiasm.
No, I wouldn't call it malafide. I may call it over enthusiasm. But
over enthusiasm. Abha Singh, over enthusiasm.
That there was some extortion racket. I don't agree with that.
He doesn't agree with any extortion. He doesn't believe that there was a criminal intent behind trying to frame Aryan Khan. Abha Singh, your response to Swapnil Kothari.
See, the things are very clear. This was a false concocted case from day one. NDPS Act, there have been innumerable cases where students have been arrested, they have got bailed the same day. But Aryan Khan paid a price because he was the son of Shah Rukh Khan, and that was the reason. In fact, I want to say why, when these have been found guilty, why no action against Sameer Wankhede? When you are given a clean chit, it is a matter of human rights.
Okay, we've lost her. Yeah, we've got her back.
26 days in jail. Who is going to pay for that is my question. Sameer Wankhede went overboard. It was a gross misuse of the act. Same day students have got bail. Neither had Aryan taken drugs or nor were any.
Motivated witch hunt. Motivated witch hunt, says Abha Singh. Let me bring in Asif Bhamla, spokesperson of the BJP, who joins us from Mumbai Live. Look, at that time, when questions were raised of Mr. Sameer Wankhede, the BJP stood by Sameer Wankhede lock, stock and barrel. They said that people like Nawab Malik, etc. were making dubious claims, suggesting that Sameer Wankhede was a hitman who was perhaps pressured by the BJP brass to try and punish people who were speaking out against the government, one of whom happened to be Shah Rukh Khan. Mr. Bhamla, this is a serious turn of events.
Sometimes process becomes punishment. That is very clear in this situation, and the necessary evil of the system. In sometimes,
okay, just give me 30 seconds, Mr. Bhamla. Just give me 30 seconds. I want to go straight across to Raian Karanjawala, the managing partner of Karanjawala and Company. Mr. Karanjawala, of course, was strategizing the defense of Aryan Khan along with other top legal luminaries, and he also engaged this cause, Mr. Mukul Rohatgi. Mr. Karanjawala, this is an interesting turn of events. You had said to me, and I remember that time when we spoke some months ago, once Aryan Khan was out on bail, you said that a large number of skeletons are going to tumble out. How do you react today?
So all I can say is that while we are relieved, we are not surprised. Because I had always said that Aryan Khan's was a case of an innocent being sought to be labeled guilty. And right in the beginning we had pointed out that this was not a case of insufficient evidence. This was a case of no evidence whatsoever. Nothing was found on his possession. No medical evidence was laid to show that he had at any stage of his life consumed drugs. All that they relied upon was that someone in the vicinity had a few grams on him, and they tried to plant it on him through the concept of conscious possession, which fortunately the courts did not adhere to. They gave us bail, though it took a long time. It took about 28 days. And today we find that the Narcotics Control Bureau agrees with what we said almost 6-8 months ago.
Now, and I want to ask you, this is very interesting, because Mr. Karanjawala, obviously, if this was all concocted, if this was perhaps an elaborate attempt and a motivated one, as the SIT says, to somehow implicate, and I'm quoting the SIT here, Aryan Khan in this drug case, do you think that the people who were motivated were acting alone, or was there a political dimension to this entire matter?
So this is not something I'm going to speculate on, because frankly, as the lawyer for the client, my only question is, at the moment, verifying what I had always said, which is that he was innocent. Whether there was a political motive, whether there was no political motive, whether there was a conspiracy, that's not really something that we're going to go into. And I don't think that was really gone into us even at the question at the stage of arguing bail.
Mr. Karanjawala, how is it that in the arrest order, and I have it right here in front of me, the memo of arrest as it's called, the memo of arrest states that at the time of Aryan Khan's arrest, there was 13 grams of cocaine on him, 5 grams of MD, 21 grams of charas, 22 pills of MDMA, and 1,33,000 rupees, which suggested that there was some transaction. And Aryan Khan also goes on to sign this particular document. And here it is in my hand, and you can see that he writes very clearly, I understood grounds of my arrest and informed the same to my family members on mobile numbers such and such, and that's been sort of blacked out. How does this happen?
Obviously, the memo of arrest was false or inaccurate. There's no doubt on that. And I don't know what condition the boy was in when he signed, if he signed.
So do you think he was forced into doing this? And if so, that's a very grave offense. And what do you propose to do?
I think we've laid our defense for the court. At the moment now, it's for the family to decide whether they want to do anything further. At the moment, the NCB has said that he's innocent, that there was nothing found on his possession, and that he's free to continue with his life in a normal way.
Well, obviously, you want justice, therefore, for Aryan Khan. It's pretty obvious. He's been declared an innocent, so to speak, by the SIT. But it is obviously meant that he's had to spend time in jail, obviously illegally. Should there be no recompense? Do you think that there should be recompense of some sort?
But there's always, that's a philosophical question that everybody who is an under trial, who goes to jail and then comes out and is ultimately found innocent, sort of has to struggle and deal with. It's how the system works, and that's what it is.
No, all I'm saying is because he has the means. A lot of people don't have the means, and they can't make an example of the system. I think to stop a system going out of control like this, one needs to therefore make an example. Would you recommend, would you personally recommend to Mr. Shah Rukh Khan that he should perhaps, on the behalf of his son, or perhaps his son himself, should now prosecute in turn the NCB officials who did this to him?
Well, speaking for myself as a lawyer to Aryan Khan, unless my opinion was specifically sought on this, I wouldn't give it.
You wouldn't give it?
I choose to confine myself to the facts of the case as they were. I wouldn't volunteer such opinions by myself.
Now, you made a very interesting statement. You said that there was never any question of your client being involved in any which way. When were you convinced of this? What was that turning point?
I was convinced when we first got involved in the case and we were told the facts of the case. I mean, I wasn't involved in the case on day one. I wasn't involved at all through the Sessions Court. So we had the only knowledge we had of the case was what the press and other people had apprised us. It's only when at the High Court level, my firm got involved. Two of my partners, Sandeep Kapoor and Ruby, went to Bombay. When we brought in Mukul Rohtgi and added to the already existing team of Amit Desai and Satish Mani Shinde, when my people got into the facts and when I was apprised of the same, when we saw the facts for ourselves, when we saw the record, that's when we were convinced. And we weren't involved from the first day.
Right.
We got in at the High Court stage.
And what were the conversations you had with SRK on this, Shah Rukh Khan on this?
Essentially, his conversations were in conferences with both my partners. I hadn't gone down to Bombay for that case. So the detailed conversations were with Sandeep and Ruby. And I just had a preliminary conversation with him when I told him that, look, we'll take on the case and we'll do our best. And I'm glad that we were able to add in our own small way to the ultimate success of the matter.
What did he say to you in defense of his son?
No, he said straight away he knew his son was innocent. He knew his son was innocent. He was more worried about the logistics of getting him out. I mean, he didn't come sort of pleading his son's case to me. He just said, look, this is the situation, these are the facts. I mean, it didn't take a genius to realize that he was innocent. The question was, how are we going to convince the court and how are we going to get him out? So our attention was on that, the process of getting what we knew to be an innocent person out of jail.
Mr. Karanjawala, did he ever mention to you that this is an attempt at extorting him?
No, never.
Never. Okay, because you
but
know.
Look, let's be honest about it. I haven't had great dialogues with him on this issue. So, I mean, what his view is, I don't know.
Oh, I'm only saying that because in the context of the story as it was unfolding in those fraught days for Aryan Khan, there were people who came forth and said that there was an attempt to extort, and there was this big meeting between one of the managers of Shah Rukh Khan and the other side, the extortionist. You know about all of that, I'm sure, because that was really commented upon in the media, that there were these CCTV pictures to that effect, or videos.
He certainly didn't. See, let's put it this way. My detailed interaction was later, when we'd gone across for lunch at his house, just to sort of, he just wanted to have me and my wife over to sort of thank us for the small role that we played. And certainly all this never came up at that time. That time we were really also talking more about, you know, coping with things and how things coped and so on and so forth. It was an attempt at what should be a relaxed lunch.
And have you spoken to him today at all? It's a happy moment for them, I'm sure, and vindication.
No. Well, no, I messaged him, but I haven't spoken.
What did he say in return?
No, he thanked us, obviously. I mean, what else? And his secretary also sent back saying thank you for all your help and prayers.
Well, Mr. Raian Karanjawala, thank you very much. Famous victory for you. You stand vindicated, of course. What happens next? We'll have to obviously see. It could quite clearly be an attempt at extorting Mr. Khan, because that's what the SIT seems to be hinting at. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. We'll take a short break, viewers. We're right back on the Explosive Exclusive.